with the interview. He says, I have sources that I'm confident something's about to happen. The last 3 predictions he got right. He's confident that something's going to happen on the 9th, the 19th, and the 20th. They don't want this man to take office.
What's up, y'all? I got a really good one today. In this video, Patrick Bet-David of the PBD podcast discussed some potential life-threatening issues that Donald Trump may be facing up to and including his inauguration. And you're going to want to stick around to the end because Pat goes into detail as to a recent conversation and potential interview that he had with a self-professed whistleblower who claimed that he had some inside information that demonstrates that there may be an even greater threat on the life of Donald Trump. You're going to want to hear this one.
Bush's, I believe, if you can go to the second 30 seconds, right, the electoral count on J6, Jimmy Carter State Funeral on 11th, which, by the way, it's a whole week thing, starts from, I believe, the 4th to the 11th, but the main days are the 9th, and that Biden's going to be at and Trump's going to be at, and then there's stuff at 11th as well. Trump's inauguration on January 20th, but there's also a Trump event called the Victory Parade Route, I'm thinking is on the 19th.
The Victory Rally is on the 19th.
The Victory.
Personally, I think that whole victory rally, and I know how Trump is. Trump is a showman. He loves to be out there amongst the people, and he loves the attention. But I hate the idea of this so-called victory rally. I think it just opens the door for more possible threats on his life. Everyone remembers the 2 that almost happened to him this year. We oftentimes forget the threat on his life in 2016 here in Las Vegas, where a young man, a teenager, grabbed a gun or attempted to grab a gun from a police officer and tried to shoot Donald Trump.
As the Donald Trump rally got underway this weekend at the Treasure Island Hotel and Casino, a young man approached a police officer stationed at the event and asked for an autograph. Then, without warning, the man went for the officer's gun, trying to take it away, only to be quickly subdued. Authorities now say that Michael Sanford, 19, allegedly told the Secret Service that this was an attempt to kill Trump. A complaint obtained by ABC News claims Sanford, who has a British driver's license, had been planning to assassinate Trump for about a year. He allegedly told the Secret Service he had driven from California to Las Vegas on June 16th to kill Trump after seeing news reports that the candidate would be there. A day later, he went to a Vegas gun range to learn how to shoot.
A lot of people forget that, but there have been multiple attempts on this man's life. And personally, I just wish he'd kind of chill and lay low until the inauguration and have the inauguration inside as opposed to being outside. I think there are too many lunatics out there that can't stand the guy. But let me know what y'all think.
Rally on the 19th is a day before Inauguration Day in D.C., and this is causing Secret Service official Matt McCool, who said that has never happened before, this many events. The electoral certification is designated a special security event for the first time, unlocking federal funds and resources. D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith confirmed that all city officers will be on duty, supplemented by 4,000 officers, 500 National Guard troops, with additional requests pending for the inauguration. Major protests are anticipated, including the People's March of January 18th at a large anti-Trump protest on Inauguration Day, and the annual March for Life on January 24th. Smith stated, "We are committed to upholding the right to peacefully assemble and protest. We will not tolerate any violence."
Again, they got a whole lot going on. So hopefully this time around, unlike January 6th, 4 years ago, they have it all squared away.
Inciting destruction of property or any behavior that threatens the safety of security of our city. Rob, can you pull up the video I sent you last night of Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent who worked under, I believe, Obama. He was Obama and Bush's, I believe. If you can go to the second 30 seconds, right there, if you can start it from right there, here's what he had to say in regards to the inauguration, and I'll give you my thoughts on what happened yesterday. Go for it.
Pay attention to this one, y'all. This is where it sounds pretty scary. I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything like that, but Dan Bongino's connected. He's got a very public platform. He's former NYPD, former Secret Service. So he still has connections that still operate in these capacities. But hear what he has to say. Take a listen.
I'll show you what I mean in a second. Another thing I've been telling you about, the inauguration's coming up. We're 2 weeks away. Folks, I'm really hesitant to talk about this, but I feel an obligation to put it out there because I don't have any other avenue to do it other than you guys in the Bongino Army. I don't think the Secret Service is prepared.
Me neither.
And I think the Secret Service, along with the FBI, are lying to this transition team. This transition team knows it. And unfortunately, there's nothing they can do until they formally take power in 2 weeks. But when they take power in 2 weeks, Donald Trump is going to be sitting there exposed at the inauguration.
So here's not just anybody. Dan Bongino was a police officer, New York City police officer. And then after that, he went and served as a U.S. Secret Service agent from 1999 to 2011. So think about during 01, 9/11, he was there. So you got, I believe, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he was Clinton. I think it's Bush and Obama. Okay. So he's there during that time saying something like this. Well, this past weekend, Sean Ryan's podcast happens. The drone event happens. On December 19th, we have a John Ferguson that comes on. If you remember John Ferguson that we had on, he was a fellow that came up talking about drones. He runs a drone company, and he says, look, I'm not quite sure what's going on with these drones, but my guesstimation is there are some missing nuclear weapons, and maybe these drones in Jersey and New York that are following through Bedminster, maybe there's more motives there. Well,
if you hadn't seen this episode with this gentleman here who's a drone expert, check it out, y'all. He posted a video. I'm not sure where it was. I saw it on X. Joe Rogan reposted it, where he talked about what he thought the drones were that had been flying over the East Coast. Notice you hadn't heard much about it lately. I mean, in light of what happened in New Orleans and here in Las Vegas with the Cybertruck, it's kind of become a forgotten issue. But from last time I looked into it, they're still happening. But go on Joe Rogan's X account, go back a couple of weeks. I'm pretty sure, a few weeks ago, and he posted this where this guy broke it down. Or check out PBD's episode, the Patrick Bet-David podcast, where he had this gentleman on, and he went into more detail.
Gets the attention of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan retweets the video. This video gets a lot of views. We have him on. He gets on here. That gets a lot of views. He's all over the news talking about this. And he's just saying, I'm just a drone guy that's been in the business. He's been in 80 plus countries, worked with a couple different heads of states in different countries in the Middle East. I get a call from him, and we start talking on Saturday. And he says, there's something I want to share with you. Remember when I told you the source and all this other stuff? I said, yes. He says, well, here's what has come to us. This is the guy that saw the nuclear weapon in Eastern Europe, and he doesn't want to give his name, but I want you to talk to him. All right.
Just a brief synopsis. That gentleman I just showed you, who the drone expert, he believes, or he was given information. Now, again, it hasn't been verified, but he was given some intel, and he has connections where he had someone tell him that at some point some type of nuclear device came across the border. Again, this is just one man's statement, and it hasn't been validated. So I don't want to be on here passing out bad information. I'm just sharing what he was claiming. Obviously a low yield, but there's alleged to be some type of device that's here in the US. He was under the impression that these drones were actually trying to find some type of nuclear energy, which is the reason why they were being so secretive about it. So just a quick synopsis of what he was claiming so that you understand what's going on as we progress.
Right. So it's Saturday. I'm driving back with the kids, and then I get home. We do another call with him and another fellow. And then at night, Rob, I don't know what time the Zoom was at night. I want to say 9:30.
9:30 to 10:30.
Cincinnati was playing, yeah. 9:30 to 10:30. So Dylan's on the other side watching the game. We're on there for an hour talking to the source. I don't have a name. His name was John Brown. And there is, I don't see a face. The only thing I see is the audio. And he's saying, look, yeah, I made a prediction that this was going to happen, and that's going to happen, and this is going to happen, and all of that stuff came true on the assassination attempt. Something's going on and they're trying to have an attack on January 9th, the 19th, or the 20th.
Now, as of making this video, today is the 9th, where Jimmy Carter's funeral is taking place.
9th is the Carter funeral that Trump said he's going to be there. 19th is whatever the victory parade. And then the 20th is this. I said, stop it. I said, who are you? Well, I can't give you mine. I said, you lose credibility if you don't do that. And we talked for an hour. I'm like, look, just sleep on it. We get stories like this all the time. I'm not interested, but, we'll talk to some of the people that we know. And it sounds like some of the people already know. I said, well, no, I'm telling you, you got to see this. So I'm like, look, it's good. We're good. Don't worry about it. Conversation ends.
Props to Pat for trying to do the best he can to vet this guy, because having been in intel on a law enforcement level, I would have people coming to me trying to give me information all the time. Half the time, guys were just trying to get out of jail. So they would lie and they would make up stuff. And another high percentage were guys who were mentally ill, who were just making up stories or telling me things that were going on in their own head. So I want to give props to Pat, because I can only imagine with a platform as large as his, he gets all kinds of stuff. He hears all kinds of tales, and some people who are professed whistleblowers coming to him. So he's doing the best he can to find out who this guy was before he decides to even give him an opportunity to share his story.
Next day, Tony calls me and he says, he's on a flight. He's in Florida. I said, what? He's already on his way to Florida. I said, you got to be kidding me. He says, no. Okay. So flights booked, on his way to Florida. Yesterday is Monday. All day, my Mondays, Tom, you know my Mondays. My Mondays, I don't have a minute break on Monday. Like my first breathing that I get is around 6 o'clock. I go, and I not even lunch. I'm just, boom, 6 o'clock, right? So eventually it comes that he is downstairs in the office. I can't give you the name of this person. He comes into the office. We sit down. We start talking. And he's telling me all these things. I'm telling you, why would I lie to you? I said, why would you lie to me? I don't know your name. I don't know who you are. I don't know the credibility. I don't know any of this stuff. Anyways, long story short, after 2 hours of talking to me, he is, just think about an Eastern European man. And he starts showing me things on his computer, very disturbing, some of the stuff he showed me. And then I said, look, finally, it was at a point, the whole team is waiting to see if we're going to do anything or not. I said, look, here's what it's come down to. If you don't tell me your name, I have to wrap this up. My kids are going to school the next day. It's their first day back from holidays. We got to wrap it up. So he's getting very uncomfortable at this time. So finally he makes a couple phone calls and he says, here's my name. And he shows me his ID. I think that's when you walked in, right? When you walked in and you saw him, give me the ID. I look up the name. I'm like, so I go online. I'm like, interviews with him from 15 years ago on YouTube, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 3 years ago, having nothing to do with politics, all to do with technology and engineering and chips. That's the business he's in. Nothing to do with that. So then I'm like, so finally I said, okay. And I noticed something that he got an award, which I don't want to be too specific because if I tell you the award,
you'll know.
Yeah. So all this stuff is documented. Okay. So I said, if we do this, I don't recommend you do this. But I'm going to talk about somebody I met without giving any intel. I'll talk about it tomorrow. And he's getting more and more nervous. I said, if we do it, we'll cover the face, do the audio. Well, I don't want to do audio. Let's have me, tell John, and then John tells you. I said, I'm not going to compromise our reputation, what we have with the podcast. People trust us when we talk. They want to listen to them, and I want to vet it. I recommend you not do it. At this point, Rob's in the room. Rob, you're in the room. I think it's me, you, and him, and another one of our guys that's in the room as well. And I said to him, don't do the interview, fly back home. You were there when I specifically said
Correct.
That to him, right? Okay. I said, if we do it, we have to do it in this following way. That took around how long?
About the entire conversation?
The entire conversation. This is after 2.5 hours of me being with him, then you come
about
in.
45 minutes.
About 45 minutes.
Quick question: what would you have done? You have somebody, you're a PBD, or you have a large platform where you discuss politics and various other topics, and you have someone travel. I don't know if he said that he came from a different country or wherever, but you had someone travel who claimed that they had intel that he was concerned about a potential attack on the president or maybe on Washington in general. And but he wouldn't give you all of his information. He later on gives you his name. But you're in this situation and you have someone approach you who claims that they know some things that might be getting ready to go down. How would you respond? Put it in the comments. I'd love to know. I think personally, I think I'd be heading down the same path that Pat did because it's just too fishy. This guy could be some lunatic, or he could be just somebody, some political plant who's trying to destroy Pat's reputation because Pat leans very conservatively. So you just never know. So I think the way he handled this was very wise.
45 minutes later, he's extremely uncomfortable. I got to use the bathroom. I got to use the bathroom. Okay, great. Boom, boom, boom. We get on the golf cart. We go to the other building to start the interview. At this point, I want to say, I remembered when we started the interview, it was 8:41. So when we started, the start time was 8:41, and we ended at like 9:30 or something like that. And then, he was here. We had to order food because nobody had eaten anything for hours, and our production team was waiting. Anyways, by the time it was done with the interview, he says, I have sources that I'm confident something's about to happen. The last 3 predictions he got right. He's confident that something's going to happen on the 9th, the 19th, and the 20th. They don't want this man to take office. Now, I'm in the business of sizing people up. And when you're in sales and you have compliance, people try to take advantage of clients and insurance and stuff like that. You have to know who's full of it and who's not. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions of working with the Department of Insurance and regulation, all this stuff. Anyways, so finally I'm like, while we're going through it, super nervous. At the end, Rob, it's only me, you, and him in the room. What happened to him at the end of the conversation?
He got very emotional towards the end, tears.
Emotional in a hysterical way, emotional in a way that he didn't want you to know that he got emotional.
Like he was holding back the tears, but he couldn't hold them back any longer.
Yeah. So this is a family man. This is not a guy that's single that has nothing to lose. He has a lot to lose. Sizable business that he's the CEO of, does very well for himself. And so for me, when I see things like this and somebody like this comes up, I'm extremely skeptical. But I'm not one that would sit there and say, well, why not talk about this? Because with all the stuff that's going on right now, who knows, the right person watches this and they may increase security. I don't know if you remember when we were in Hamptons and we did that one podcast when he was giving the RNC speech at like 12:30, we're sitting there listening to this. Do you remember that one right after Eric Trump gave the talk? We're up. And I'm asking the question, I'm like, how do you not have the glass for AV to protect against it and all this other stuff? For AV can spend a little bit more money to put the glass to protect you and all this. So look, if this causes a little bit more, because sometimes you can be overly confident, everything is good, all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden, you make one mistake, you put your guard down, and then you're done. And I hear Dan Bongino saying Secret Service is still not his Secret Service, and you hear Trump defending a lot of the Secret Service that know him and they're protective of him, all this other stuff. All I'm saying is there's 3 big events that's coming up. And if this guy comes in here, by the time it was done, every one of us started off skeptical. If the interview goes out, you'll be able to hear it and make your own decision on it if it does go out or not. At this point, high likelihood it's not going out. 80% is not going out, where I'm just kind of sharing this with you.
I've said on multiple occasions, first of all, going back to this entire election, I never thought Donald Trump had a chance. And it's not because I didn't believe the people wouldn't want him overwhelmingly. I thought that they would, especially in light of this failed last 4 years with Joe Biden. He had to be the worst president that I can recall. Border, the economy, Afghanistan withdrawal, you name it. His mental state, especially what we're hearing now, and it's odd, not odd. Clearly, we understand why they didn't release this information until now and it came out, what was the Wall Street Journal? It came out now that he was basically incompetent over the last 4 years, and his staff was, as far as we know, his staff were the ones who were making a lot of other decisions. But I never thought that the powers that be, the establishment, whether it's Republicans and Democrats, big tech, big food, big pharma, the World Economic Forum, the globalists, I thought that there were too many entities, too many powerful entities that did not want him in power. World Health Organization, NATO. And I thought that they would do anything and everything to ensure that he wouldn't be president. The FBI, many of our other intel agencies, Homeland Security. But by the grace of God, he was elected, reelected. And now that he's in the position of authority and power, or soon to overtake it, or soon to reclaim it, there are too many entities that could potentially suffer his wrath, for lack of a better term. Not so much as him being vengeful, it's just a reality of some of these entities being corrupt. The FBI, the J6 committee, all the people who are locked up for misdemeanors, been locked up for years, or who are being held in jail for years without a trial for low-level offenses. The swamp in general. There's so many aspects of the establishment, the globalists, they do not want him investigating all the dirt that they did over these last 4, 8, heck, probably for decades. And a guy like Donald Trump coming along who can't be controlled, he's a billionaire, he's connected to Elon Musk, another billionaire, Vivek Ramaswamy, another one. These folks don't want him in power. He's looking to put Kash Patel as the FBI head, and he's looking to appoint Pete Hegseth, who's going to totally shake up the military. There are too many areas that these people who are in power and who have held power for a very long time that they're not willing to give up. And Donald Trump is going to come along and he's going to shake up. At least that's his claim. And that's the hope, is that he follows through and he shakes all this crap up and he reveals all the dirt. Like you look at the whole Hunter Biden laptop issue and the fact that they slapped him on his hand for what should have been a way deeper investigation into the ties that Joe Biden had with foreign agencies. Hunter was basically using his connections to Joe for financial gain. And there's a ton of evidence to corroborate that. And how he was given a pardon going back 11 years. Anybody, I don't care where you stand politically, you should be skeptical of that. That should be concerning to you. If it was only about the gun charge, then why would he have to go back 11 years to cover for his son? And watch how many other pardons, I'm predicting, how many other pardons he gives people to cover their butts for the dirt that they did. I never believed that Trump would win apart from God raising him up as our president. But now that he's here, I think there are a lot of people who do not want to see that man lead our country. You see the impact that he's had already, and he hasn't even taken office as of the shooting of this video. So whether he makes it or not, I'm praying he does. But all these major events coming up where he'll be center stage largely, it's very concerning to me. I don't know about y'all.
And whatever people want to do with this information, they'll do what they want to do with it. But there definitely is a little bit of a different, and by the way, even Blinken the other day said that China, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, they increased the chances of a nuclear weapon being used from 5 to 15%. Did you see that last week?
Yep.
Did you guys see that last week?
Which is a huge jump when it comes to nukes.
What do you mean 5 to 15%? I mean, 5 to 15%. 5% is 1 out of 20. 15% is 1 out of 7. You know, is that what? No, Rob, if you just type in Blinken, 5%, 15% nuclear on Google, it'll come up. But it's a story that's a different kind of a story. Blinken, 5 to 15% nuclear. You'll see a story that'll come up. This just came out this week. Is that it right there? We have reason to believe that China engaged Russia and said, don't go there. Blinken told the outlet, adding, even if there's probability, if the probability went from 5 to 15% when it comes on nuclear weapons, nothing is more serious. The Secretary of State also noted that China likely stepped in to persuade Putin not to launch a nuclear weapon into space. Tensions were raised further into November, where Putin lowered the threshold for nuclear strike after. Anyways, so all this stuff is going on at the same time. Tom, how worried are you yourself during this specific season? Because we've been saying January 20th can't come fast enough. How concerned are you?
Well, right now, my concern is around transition of power and that there are people with desire and means to interrupt that. But I sit there and I look at it, and you really, if you think about it logically, if a crazy act, incapacitates or assassinates Trump, J.D. Vance is the VP elect. And so I worry about disrupting the transition of power, but I don't believe that a single act can interrupt, the elected will of the people. You have to go like 5 steps on the other side. Oh, okay, well, you're gone, so guess what? Biden's still going to be president. He's going to resign. Kamala's president. No. I worry about the interruption from third-party actors, because I don't worry about the transition of power. I worry about the orderly transition of power, if that makes sense. And then exert control on us. It's the whole martial law scenario.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, who is behind this? He gave me a name privately on who he said was behind it. And when we were on here, he didn't give the name. When we had him on here, I said, but who is behind us? Is it a Republican? Is it a Democrat? He says, no, this is not about a Republican or Democrat issue. This is about a globalist and a nationalist. I said, tell me more. He says, what is Viktor Orban? Is he a globalist or nationalist? I said, he's a nationalist. He says, they don't like nationalists. These are people that want a globalist, control.
Yep.
They don't want the nationalist control.
Pretty wild, y'all. Let me know what you think. Is this some dude who's just blowing smoke, trying to get attention, or could there be more to it? Personally, I think there could be a lot more going on. And if you just look at how things went down with Donald Trump with all the lawfare, they tried to take him off of the ballot. They tried to lock him up. They tried to bankrupt him. Some folks tried to kill him. The FBI investigated him years ago, multiple times. There was insiders in the FBI who were saying that they were going to stop it. I would not be surprised if this is legit. But let me know what you think. If you appreciate content like this, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you appreciated this video, if you got a lot out of this one, make sure you check out this video right here. I think you'll find it very informative as well.